Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. In this video I'm just going to be trying to troubleshoot the engine not stopping in my 1977 Ford F150. Basically if I turn the engine on, it'll just keep going, and you can pull the positive cable off the battery and it'll just continue running off of the alternator. So something's not right with the wiring. I've been installing a painless wiring harness throughout my truck, and I've been following all of the directions and wiring to a T, and so I'm a bit stumped right now as to what this could be. My main suspect is the voltage regulator right here, because it's ancient and looks maybe it's even original. So I'm not sure if this could be the cause, because it could be causing some weirdness. Basically, even if I disconnect the wires on my key, the ignition switch, even if I pull the wires on the back of here, the engine will continue running even if those are pulled. And this issue started happening when I plugged in my gauge cluster. And again, everything on the gauge cluster is wired correctly, and this plug that's from Painless Wiring has pin number 2, which is voltage regulator excite signal charge indicator light, and the constant voltage 12 volt from fuse block, pin number 7. It has these wires connected together, and I cut this link. They had it with a crimp. Basically these two wires going to the gauge cluster itself and the two wires coming out of here were all just crimped together with a crimp. And I was wondering if this could have been a mistake from the factory, but it seems like the actual Ford wiring harness also had a similar linkage. I'm wondering though if something could be amiss going on with the ignition module as well, because it shows here that these wires go to the ignition module. I don't know. I'm gonna just keep trying to figure out. I can just show you the issue though if I have my keys out. We'll go ahead and just fire it up so that you can see. So no way to shut it off, and it continues to run just fine. Like, it's not even close to dying, so it's not even like dieseling or something. Because then if you pull these wires, which are the excite signal and constant 12 volt, and what they mean by constant 12 volt is that is switched. It's not just always on. So that 12 volt power is only on if the key is on. If those wires are pulled, then it shuts off. So I'm gonna figure out a bit more off camera if potentially the voltage regulator could be the issue, because this thing basically has 2 stages that trigger the alternator to start charging the battery. It was funny because I was driving around this truck a bit without the alternator even really charging, I guess, since that linkage was not in. If those wires are not connected for the alternator excite signal to 12 volt power, it will not run the alternator at all, and so your battery will just drain. So if your battery is just draining and it doesn't even seem to be charging, then that's probably your issue. It's some sort of thing with the excite signal going for the voltage regulator. There's already a bunch of videos talking about testing the voltage regulator and the alternator. There's a way to just cross the wires in this, and then you can test if your alternator has failed or if it's the voltage regulator. I'm also thinking about doing a one-wire alternator setup just to eliminate this with the extra wires going to the voltage regulator. So we'll see. Anyway, I'm gonna fool around a bit more off camera, just double checking to make sure that that power actually does shut off, or if that's then an issue with painless wiring. As far as I can tell, it shows this voltage 12 volt going to the fuse block, and I tried pulling the relays that are here to see if those could have fused together or something, and removing the relays, the engine continues running, so that's not it. I'll check to make sure just 100% that it's not getting constant voltage, because then that's something wrong with their wiring harness. So I'll check that and get back to you. Alrighty, so off camera I checked with my voltmeter on the inside of the cab that for sure that is a switched 12 volt supply. So this wire here, the black green wire, that says constant 12 volt, which I guess is misleading here because it's not actually constant. It does switch on and off with the key. So when you have the ignition in the off position, there is no power here, and then connecting the power lead positive there, and I just touched my negative to here, I was able to get a 12 volt reading since this is grounded. It's kind of hard to find a clean ground since it's an old rusty truck. So that's fine. So that is switch 12 volt, which is correct. And then out here, I've connected a temporary setup for voltage regulator to test if the old one has failed. So I don't really want to deal with unhooking that unless it's actually dead. So I've connected a ground alligator clip to the negative on the battery, and then just grounded this case. And I tested continuity with my voltmeter already to make sure that it is grounded, because it can do weird stuff if this case is not grounded. So that's why this is all plugged in. It seems to be fine. So we'll try and fire up the engine and see what happens. Also, I'm gonna reconnect this. So that issue obviously won't happen unless those are connected. Right, so those are connected up. Let's fire it up. Ah, there we go. Just to make sure it's not a fluke. Make sure this is for sure connected. There's no way that's not. So there we go. And we'll also check to make sure out here that it's charging. The way that you can tell is with your voltmeter. I wish I had one with alligator clamps. Should probably invest in that. I don't know if I'm even going to be able to do this one-handed. So right now my voltage meter is reading 14 volts. If the voltage regulator was not working or the alternator was not working, I would be reading about 12 volts there. This is a bit high though, so I'm wondering if it could still be a bit wrong. I know though that I've been kind of running this engine without charging the battery, so right now the voltage regulator might be trying to charge it more, just since the batteries have been on the dead side. Another thing that you can check though is the voltage regulator has two different coils that it can trigger on the alternator. One of them is a standby idle, which is what it should be doing right now. There. Let's just check it again, see if the voltage has gone down. So it's still reading 14 volts. It should be doing just the idle right now, but then if I turn on the blower motor and also engage the headlights, we should be having a draw, which should trigger the voltage regulator to go into the higher power output mode. So it seems to still be regulating pretty well, which means it should have engaged the other winding on the alternator. So that seems like that was the issue, is the voltage regulator actually was bad. I have never ever seen anyone else with this issue, and it was funny because I was just down at Napa and they I guess that's a bit weird, it was running still. Let's try it again. I want to make sure it's for sure working. I think that might have been something going on with, since I had everything, I think that's because I had so much stuff running, it was trying to keep the alternator going a bit longer. It seems like this has fixed the issue though. Yeah, I was just down at Napa and everyone else is like, oh, make sure that the ignition switch, something's not wrong there, which is a genuine concern. And also the fact that the starter solenoids also go bad. These go bad a lot. So make sure that this is working first before you go into any other nonsense with the system. For me though, since I was able to identify the fact that I had just connected my gauge cluster up and then this issue occurred, it was very causality thing, because the engine was starting and stopping fine with the starter solenoid, so that's what made me think it was something else. But somehow the original voltage regulator failed in a way that it was thinking that the engine still needed power, or that the battery still needed power, even when the key was off. So it was getting some sort of extra power, something. I don't know exactly what was going on, but obviously something in the original one has gone bad. And I'm impressed that it still has the original one there, because it seems like they do fail. So there's probably a good chance that this had failed long ago, and I'm only just now overhauling this truck with new wiring, and I'm not really even sure, since the truck wasn't running. I had to replace the carburetor, fuel pump, spark plugs, distributor. I did all the ignition wiring again. It's really hard to say even when the last time was this truck was actually a reliable car. So I'm guessing that this was actually an issue probably a while ago, and it had so many other things wrong that this wasn't even on the top of the list. So now we know though, voltage regulator, that's what was bad. We'll see if I do go to a one-wire alternator though still. This will get me up and running for the time being, but I've heard that the modern voltage regulators can also go bad a lot. So there's also a chance though I might make an Arduino upgrade. I don't know, it's not for the faint of heart or for most people to try and fiddle with, and I'm not 100% sure what I'll do, but since this thing, all it's really doing is connecting the two different wires for field and I forget the other. I should have studied more before I made the video, but there's two different coil winding wires that basically you engage power to it depending on the draw that is detected. So with ground on the case and the positive wire from the ignition switch is able to tell, okay, I have power, what is the reading, and if it is an idle draw or if it's high draw, it connects one or the other wire. At least that's my understanding of it. So I might make a system that actually can read the voltage in a more smart manner, that actually can detect an exact power level and then connect one or the other depending on the need. And it might last longer if this one fails. So I don't know. I like to try and challenge myself with making components like that. So, but most people probably wouldn't recommend it. And so anyway, thank you for watching. Let me know if you have any questions or comments, and I'll be sure to respond. And I just wanted to show it with it fully installed just to make sure it's definitely fixed. So it's remounted here. I sanded down the metal where it screws into so it gets a better connection, and just to make sure it has ground. And then if I I've already tested with the voltmeter that it is charging the battery right now, and it does stop when I turn off the ignition, so it's fixed. So if anyone has the issue of their truck literally not shutting off, check your voltage regulator. Pulling off the old one, I'm surprised it's still in here. It's just so obviously dead. So I'm glad it's changed out. I'm assuming this has not been working for a long time. Anyway, thank you for watching, and stay tuned for other videos on my channel.